All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Why can't people just be normal? It's the question that plagues most of us. If I meet people and they tell me with respect that what I do sounds interesting, but that they hate the news, I completely understand where they're coming from. There is a general feeling amongst the American people at this time that the more engagement that you have with what is going on and with the higher institutions that are supposed to educate you, that it is literally poisoning your mind. And in that spirit, I found something over the weekend that, while rightfully dunked on, really bothered me from MSNBC. They ran an editorial saying, quote, "The far right's obsession with fitness is going digital." My first thought is, oh God, really? We're gonna turn fitness into a culture war? The one thing that anyone, regardless of age, gender, socioeconomic status, they can actually engage in to actually feel better? And after reading it, it was actually even more sinister than I thought. They changed the headline to a lay criticism, but here's the gist of it from Cynthia Miller Idris. She's a so-called professor of polarization and extremism research at the School of Public Affairs at American University here in Washington, D.C. Miller Idris alleges within her op-ed that fitness has always been a central tenet of fascism, citing Hitler's Mein Kampf. And she notes that far-right groups across the West are encouraging fitness amongst its followers, but notes that we are seeing an emerging contingent here in the United States. Miller Idris cites a single example of a so-called far-right militia in Maryland recruiting at a gym to affirm her thesis. She then notes that since UFC and MMA fighters are dissident against the current cultural regime, thus the whole sport must be far-right. At the end, she then calls for vigilance amongst gym owners and physical trainers to make sure that they are spying on clientele, to make sure that they are not becoming too far-right as they lift weights. I tortured you by describing her argument in as much detail as possible, just so you could really understand the depth of the stupidity at the heart of this thing. And who is this person? Well, per my investigation of her biography at American University, she has testified before Congress several times, has regularly briefed members of the U.S. intelligence community as well as the United Nations. Her research is funded by the National Science Foundation, the U.S. Department of Education, the Department of Homeland Security, and even in the Cabinet of the United Kingdom. She also happens to be on the International Advisory Board of the Center for Research on Extremism in Oslo, which is considered the gold standard for that research. In other words, this is what qualifies as a so-called extremism expert in the world. Enough for our own government, charged with tracking threats and protecting us, is funding. And that is precisely why this is total insanity. This is the culture warification of fitness, of something that normal people do to make themselves feel better. And it is why people are turning on each other and hate the news. Why they feel as if the cultural elite is working overtime to divide all of us and ruin every aspect of our lives, even the ones that people cherish the most and have nothing to do with politics. It's no secret that in the very last year, I've talked about my own journey into fitness. If you ask my friends, they're probably sick of hearing about it. That's okay. But I have a religious zeal of a convert with the knowledge of how much I was missing when I was sedentary. This is the last aspect of our society which needs to be political. It needs to remain a realm welcome to literally somebody of any aspect of life. The barrier to entry being only physical and mental capacity, nothing else holding people back. What I really notice about this is how much actually fits within so many of the wars that we had over our culture and in COVID in the last couple of years. Think about it. Your baseline level of physical fitness, it was never discussed during the COVID in terms of how it would affect your health outcomes. The CDC and Dr. Fauci were all loath to tell you that if you're obese or even if you're fat, you're a lot more at risk of getting seriously ill or dying from COVID than somebody who is not. I mean, look even further. They seem loath to tell you that about anything, be it cancer, diabetes, blood disease, alcohol use, anything. You are more likely to die or be ill if you're fat than if you're not. It's as close to a miracle drug that exists within science. And the medical community, they refuse to prescribe it with the same zeal as pills because there is less money to be made and because it requires more work on the patient's part. The medical establishment over the last 30 years has reached for the pill bottle more than it has reached for something that actually works. And beyond even the incentives within our medical establishment, and of course by the cultural elites, their fear of being accused of fat shaming for telling basic truths about human biology and physical fitness, what's worse about the culture war on fitness is it just polarizes another aspect of daily life. Right now, you are literally incapable of watching ESPN without having the culture war thrust into your face. You are unable to consume sports as it is right now whether you wear a mask or not has less to do with science and more to do with social signaling. The same became the case with vaccines. And as Krystal and I have observed, the ultimate indictment of the United States is that while many other countries actually reported a significant rally around the flag outcome and came together as an approach to the pandemic, it was here in the United States that the level of polarization that took 2 years to materialize in the rest of the West, it was present here within just a few months of our COVID policy. We do not trust the very basic goodwill and actions of our neighbors, citizens who share different beliefs, and the way that civil wars and civil strife happen are because the conditions of people's lives within the same supposed polity are so at odds that they see no commonality. And the war against fitness is a part of that. It is meant to bifurcate the way that we eat, the way that we work, what we watch, what we consume, how we raise our kids, what schools that we go to. All of those features right now are a class system. All of them grow us apart year by year, generation by generation, until your fellow citizen is barely recognizable to you. So join me, not in working out to own the libs or getting fat to own the cons. Participate in a national culture of looking after yourself to live a more fulfilling life and be happier, so that you can tune out the MSNBCs of the world, lives your life happily, fulfill what you're really meant to. Because the future of our country may actually depend on it. That may be a long-winded way, Krystal. You know, I read this thing, and the more I looked into it, I'm like, this lady's funded by the Department of Homeland Security. I'm like, this is crazy. Hey guys, we're gonna be totally upfront with you. This is the most perilous time that we have ever operated in.
It is so difficult just to try to sort through the news, but even more importantly, to bring you accurate information as this wave of lockdown and censorship spreads across the nation.
Yeah, look, if you can become a premium subscriber today at breakingpoints.com, you're gonna help us build out a vibrant, independent media ecosystem which is free of mainstream pressure. We can't tell you how important that is at a time like this.
Yep, that's right. Go to breakingpoints.com to subscribe. We love you guys and we appreciate you so much.